All right, let's talk about trade wars, specifically the one where the United States decided to play a global game of tariff whack-a-mole. Now, I know what you're thinking, trade wars, isn't that a bit dry, even for a global economics enthusiast like me? And you know what, you might be right. But stick with me, because this is a story about how the world's biggest economy tried to fix its problems by making everyone else's problems a little bit bigger. And it involves a level of economic awkwardness that would make a Thanksgiving dinner with your extended family look like a picnic in the park. For decades, the United States had a bit of a spending problem. Not the kind where you accidentally buy too many pairs of shoes online. We're talking about a trade deficit, which is basically the difference between how much a country imports, buys from others, and exports, sells to others. And the United States was importing a lot, like way more than it was exporting. Think of it like this. Imagine going out for dinner with your friends every night for a year, but never offering to pick up the check. Eventually someone's going to say something, and that's kind of what happened. The United States had been racking up this massive trade deficit, particularly with countries like China, for years. This flood of cheaper imports was great for consumers who got used to low prices, but it was putting a real strain on American manufacturing. Factories were closing, jobs were being lost, and the situation was becoming unsustainable. So the United States decided it was time for a change. And their solution? Tariffs. Basically, taxes on imported goods designed to make them more expensive and encourage people to buy American-made products instead. Now, you might think a trade war is a two-way street, but in this case it was more like the United States decided to build a roundabout and then charge everyone a toll to use it. China, being the biggest exporter to the United States, was obviously the main target. But let's be clear, the tariff hammer came down on pretty much everyone. The European Union, Canada, Mexico, Japan, South Korea, even Vietnam. They all got hit with tariffs on various goods. Some countries were left scratching their heads, wondering what they'd done to deserve this sudden tax hike on their exports. It was like the United States walked into a crowded room and said, "Look, we don't want to single anyone out, so we're just going to assume everyone here needs a good fiscal slapping." So what happened? Well, as you can imagine, slapping tariffs on goods from all over the world doesn't exactly lead to a harmonious global market. In the United States, prices went up. Everything from washing machines to steel became more expensive. Remember that $5 cup of coffee? Yeah, that became a $6.50 cup of coffee real quick. Businesses were caught in the crossfire too. They had to deal with higher costs for materials, scramble to find new suppliers, and navigate the uncertainty of a volatile global market. And the hope was that by making imported goods more expensive, American manufacturing would get a boost. But the reality is, whether something is made in the United States or imported, if the materials are more expensive, that cost gets passed down to, you guessed it, the consumer. Now, the rest of the world wasn't just going to sit back and take it. Other countries retaliated with their own tariffs on United States goods. Suddenly, American farmers who rely heavily on exports found themselves struggling to sell their products. The global supply chain, that intricate web of interconnected businesses and trade routes, got all tangled up. Companies started moving their factories to other countries to avoid tariffs, adding even more complexity to the situation. Some countries like Vietnam actually benefited in the short term. As companies shifted production away from China, Vietnam saw an increase in manufacturing and exports, but even they knew it was a precarious situation. It felt like everyone was just nervously passing the economic hot potato, waiting to see who would get burned next. Look, the United States trade war wasn't born out of malice. It was a reaction to a very real problem, the decline of American manufacturing and an over-reliance on imports. But the solution felt a bit like going to a potluck dinner, realizing you forgot to bring anything, and responding by flipping over the table. The United States was essentially saying, we need to start cooking for ourselves again, and to make sure we do, we're locking everyone else out of the kitchen. Meanwhile, the rest of the world, who had gotten used to sharing meals and ingredients, was left wondering what the hell happened. This trade war highlighted a fundamental truth about the global economy. We're all interconnected. When one country throws a tantrum in the grocery store, everyone feels the impact. The United States trade war might have been an attempt to solve its own economic problems, but it ended up creating a whole new set of challenges for everyone involved. It's like that friend who keeps forgetting their wallet every time you go out to eat. At first you're understanding, but eventually you start to wonder if they are just taking advantage of the situation. And in the case of the global economy, the United States had been the one treating everyone else to dinner for years. So when they finally decided to order off the menu and then demand everyone split the bill evenly, it didn't exactly go down smoothly. The lesson here: the global economy is a delicate ecosystem. And while it's important for each country to look after its own interests, we also need to remember that cooperation, not confrontation, is the key to a sustainable and prosperous future for everyone, because in the end, we're all sitting at the same table.